And they didn't answer. So I think somewhere in there. So fucking they heard screams and didn't call. Fucking they heard screams and didn't call. Fucking they heard screams and didn't call. And one of them says that she saw a guy in a black mask. With a black mask on.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
And here we go.
Welcome to the Freak Show, the best in town.
Let's go, Hive. Let's go. Now is the time to continue to keep the pressure on the mainstream media. And damn, does it feel good. Because we're not talking about an oopsie anymore. It's not any typos. It's not misreporting. It's a complete pattern and an operation, and the public has completely woken up to that fact. The mainstream media is in on the cover-up, everybody. Not just a part of it, the entire damn thing. And they have been doing this for far too long. And let me just say one thing. While, yes, it's nice to, we get a pat on the back that the news is starting to cover it. The public sentiment is changing about it. I know that every single one of us in here right now did not spend hours looking into this case to just get tossed a treat and say, good boy or good girl. Yep, you were right. We covered it up just a little bit, though. No, F that. We're coming for the entire truth, nothing but the truth, and we want to hear them say it. I want to hear them say it. This is just getting started, and now is the time where we smell blood in the water and we put the pressure on them, okay? The entire truth needs to come out, and it feels good, and I'm happy that there are people like you and me that can really just say, you know what, we're going to get together every night at 7 p.m. Central, or on Saturdays, what time is it now? 12:30 Central, and we're going to talk in real time. We're going to talk in real time about the BS that the TV is pushing, and it shapes our entire world. And we dialed in on this case. The documents, the photos, rumors. We have flipped over every damn stone. And I just want to say cheers to you guys. I hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend. Buckle up for this week, because there's going to be no shortage of us continuing to go down this rabbit hole and make sure every last bit of the truth gets exposed. So if this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central, and then on Saturdays, it's kind of TBD. Most times it's around noon. But this is a contrarian thinking live stream. We think past the headlines. You might have thought of us as a conspiracy channel when I had moved over to YouTube, but just how most conspiracy theorists feel. You get hit up in about 6 months' time, and they say, you were right. Oh, my God. How did you know? Yeah, it's because I use this thing that's inside my skull called my brain. And that's what this is. So if you like to think past the headlines and you question everything, you found your people. You're amongst friends. If you're a normie, NPC, simp, you can either scroll away or you can hang out and ruin your weekend. I don't really care. I got the best mods on YouTube. They're going to give you enough leash to hang yourself. I got formerly known as Beck, Discord Dawn, UFO Dog, and Luna Bliss. Just don't troll, don't spam, don't threaten. And you can dish it out in the chat if you disagree. Just know that if you dish it out, you can expect that we will dish it back, because we believe in the right to not only think out loud, but to have this adult conversation, a respectful conversation known as a discussion. And it's hard for some of you out there. Nonetheless, let me go ahead and say what's up to everybody. What's up to my mods, UFO Dog, Discord Dawn, formerly known as Beck, Batshit Crazy, what's going on? Sherlock's in the house, Shelly, Melissa Patterson, 4059, Lisa, Growth Renewal, Danusi. How do you say that? Can you spell that out in the chat for me so I don't butcher it every time? Momo's, Smiling Sleuth, Alexis, Kim House, Nurtured. We got John Shep, Tinfoil Hat Claire, Karmic Retribution. Great to see you, Sleuther there. Crystal Folco's coming in with a super chat to start the stream, which, by the way, let me get that up on the screen there. Any super chat over $4.99, I will address it immediately unless I'm kind of in the flow state. And any super chats that I don't get to, I will address at the end of the stream. So make sure you hang out, and I appreciate all of those. This stream is completely free. I don't put anything behind a paywall. So your support and the generosity that you feel out of the kindness of your heart is really what helps us channel the most. Kim, let's see. Where was I? Aaron, D-Dog Wifey, my pug Mimi, Loving Other Habits, Ambroski, Carrie D1, Swifty, Coco Cash, Allison Stuck in Wonderland, Brad Harris, new subscriber here, loving the channel and the content. Well, welcome to the Hive, Brad. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're happy to have you. Jen Rianne says, I lived your first clown horn ever. Oh, yeah. Jackster, NM Bandits in New Mexico. Mary Tyler's in Canada. I feel like the entire world is freezing cold right now. Freezing cold. It's brutal out there. That's right, Crystal. Crystal says if you're going to dish it, you best be able to take it. Amen to that. Let me just open up my window real quick. That intro, I started to sweat a little bit. Got too fired up. And I just saw somebody say they love the shirt. So, guys, I've been trying the last 2 days. Technical difficulties, I guess you could call it. Pretty much, I'm not able to get on to the manufacturer's site to add the shirt to the HiveMindStore.com. So I'm working on that. So I apologize. I know that a lot of people have asked for this shirt. I'm going to get it up there, and just give me a day or two. I'm working on it. Thank you for the patience. Now, if you guys have not hit that like button on your way in, please go ahead and do so. I'll put this full screen. Discord Dawn made this QR code, which is awesome. And all you have to do is screenshot this. And then after the live concludes, if you tap the QR code, it should bring up all of the Hive's socials. It'll bring up my TikTok, HiveMindStore.com, the Discord app. Highly, highly, highly recommend you follow me on TikTok and joining our Discord. As a reminder, make sure that you have the Discord app downloaded on your phone prior to pressing the Discord link. That's really the only issue that people have. For some reason, Discord's weird like that. And D-Dog Wifey coming in with a big super chat saying, love you, Birdie. Thanks for being our voice. Keep doing you. Well, I love you guys too. I look forward to this every day. I feel honored to be able to sit in this seat and help spread the word and spread the truth. And I'm never going to stop. This is what I love to do. So thank you to everybody that does tune in and support this stream. Now, I have the theme today. Breaking news. It turns out we were right. And in the most anticlimactic fashion, is anybody in here surprised? I'm not surprised. This was always more than a feeling. This was always more than just this gut instinct. This is This is what happens when you actually research and you look into stuff. Amy said, forgot to say in my last super chat, I finally made a live. Well, welcome, Amy. Thank you for being here. The lives are the best, you know, and I do post a recap about a day or two later as a video. So if you guys can't hang out for the whole live, check out my channel, and I post a 20 to 40 minute, like, quick cut version of the live so that you can stay up to date if you don't have time to hang out with really just, you know, the meat and potatoes of the stream. But yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, if you're watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, even some of these like alt channels now too, they've just been taken over. It's this filtered script that's handed down from think tanks. Clearly, there's a, when I say a script, I think that word script, it turns a lot of people off. But I'm telling you, these broadcasters, they sit in front of the camera after getting their face powdered, and they are reading a screen that is directly above the camera. So you can't tell they're reading. They use a weird, unnatural voice. They use that newscaster voice, and then they just smother you in whatever their narrative is. They will flood the truth with garbage. There's just pointless stories too. I don't know about you guys. I have noticed nothing but just trash. It's either fear or stupid. There is nothing of value on the news in any way, shape, or form. And we've just had enough. We've had enough. And I don't want to rant too much about it, but they will distract you. They will call you names. They will look down upon you. And here's what I have to say to that, Hive. Right there. Get a nice hard look at it. You guys don't think for yourselves, and the people are done with it. And so let's get into it, shall we? Tinfoil Hat Claire, I got to give you just, you might be the all-time GOAT for the Discord questions of the day. You're always putting just awesome questions in there, and you screenshot it for context, so it makes it really easy for me to prepare this slide for the stream. So thank you to Tinfoil Hat Claire. Tinfoil Hat Claire says, do you think that it's a little odd it's the same state that Kaylee was going to go to, and also the fact she's in a sorority after her sister was murdered 3 years ago? In my opinion, if I had a sibling who was in a sorority then murdered, I'd be afraid to even get in a sorority. And two, if I was a parent, I would not feel comfortable with my other child being in a sorority after having another child or daughter murdered. And there's a post from the Goncalves Facebook page that says, Aubrey is officially a Zeta Tau Alpha. She is super excited. And of course, we are super excited for her. Every day she makes us all proud. Texas, please take care of our baby. I don't think she will be coming home anytime soon. Now, I did delete a couple of sentences off of Tinfoil Hat Claire's question just because it was already long and I wanted to fit it onto the screen. Tinfoil Hat Claire, similar to what I'm about to say, is like, we know we've never been in that situation. But there is something to that. There is something to that with if you have, you know, somebody that's killed in any kind of incident. It could be suicide, it could be drunk driving, it could be murdered in, you know, some sort of fashion, right? It's an instinct as a human, as a family member, to have that thought in the back of your head. Now, not letting it win, that's commendable. I'm not hating on that. It is commendable. But I do think in general, the reason why I put this question on the screen is one of the Hive's best thing that we do is we look into everything. We are going to continue to do so. However, I would challenge people to try to read the room. Read the room when it comes to which rumors are really gaining traction. Okay, so in the news now, they're finally referring to Dr. Turvey's testimony or his report saying that there's no way that one person did this. What the state is alleging could have never happened with the cleanup and the lack of blood and DNA and all that stuff, right? We've all read it. I've read it on stream a couple of times. But what is interesting is that there is no mention of anything about frats or sororities. Now, that could be hiding it. It could be hiding it. I agree with that. However, I showed this question because Luna Bliss had sent me this, and I wanted to make sure that I read this on stream because it is interesting. I find and this is my opinion, guys. You guys can check me in the chat. That's the beauty of the Hive. I have the freedom to think out loud. You guys do too. And in my opinion, okay, I'm not saying that frats and sororities, they don't haze. There's not accidental deaths. There's not cover-ups. There absolutely 100% is documented, proven. It's an irrefutable fact. When it's at this level, that's where my alarm bells kind of start to go off. I don't know why a couple of college kids wouldn't be thrown under the bus compared to Brian Koberger. Okay. So a lot of people say, well, they're covering up because of connections. I agree. They probably are. But look at what they've done to Brian. If they can do this to Brian, you're going to tell me they can't do it to anybody? Why not squash the frat and sorority and Greek life rumors and just throw a couple frat boys under the bus? And you don't have to agree with that because there's a lot of stuff like what I'm about to read that's out there. And don't get me wrong, the Banfield body cam footage, the age of the kids, the proximity of the Sigma Chi house, all of that, and given the history of stuff like this. So I am acknowledging that. And I'm going to read this. Okay. But I do think that it is wild. National security and redactions, not testing DNA, to me screams bigger, I guess is what I would say. It feels bigger than just frat kids. Now, I just saw Spotty Ash. See, this is what I'm saying. There's an argument. There's an argument to be made for the protection of the reputation. They were obviously trying to merge with the University of Phoenix, an online school, for hundreds of millions of dollars. So I get it. I absolutely get it. Now, JJ throws down, says, bro, I went to the University of Idaho. This is all part of a ritualistic Greek frat sacrifice. Let me put this full screen. This is all part of a ritualistic Greek frat sacrifice that usually happens every 4 years. The mistake that happened in 2022 was that there were 2 people in the house that were targeted instead of 1 because of a fight that happened with Ethan at the Phi house hours before the murder took place. Kaylee was disfigured because Jack found out from his boy Adam he was being cheated on months earlier with Holland. That's why Holland was killed too. This case was so obvious, but because outsiders don't understand how the school works, that's what's causing so much confusion. We all do the murder. We all do the murder of Xana on the snuff site the night it happened. The police were called, but they did nothing because they were paid off and involved because of the drug stash that was in the house that was being stashed from the Aryan Brotherhood, which has members in the police and in Greek frats. Now, again, let me just say this. I'm not denying that if you're in college and you're a college-aged adult, you're not a child in college at all. You're over 18. You're making adult choices. You're probably going out, you're drinking, whether you're engaging in other adult activities, right? You guys are picking up what I'm putting down. You're an adult. You're not a child. One thing that I will really heavily agree on and weigh in on is that it's not unrealistic to think that there are students who have parents or uncles or aunts or cousins that are a part of the AK. That's not a stretch in any way, shape, or form at all. My grandpa was a Milwaukee police officer back in the 70s. And I remember when I was probably like 15, 16, 17, like mid-teens, we were over at my grandparents' house on Christmas. And my grandpa started telling us about how Milwaukee was kind of this under the radar hub between Chicago and a handful of other cities. Honestly, Dubuque, Iowa, too, randomly. Dubuque, Iowa was where Al Capone hid out. But with the mob that we know, right? In, the 70s, the 80s, 90s, stuff like that. My grandpa had said something, and it stuck with me, and I don't even know why, but it popped into my head when I read this. And he had said, do you realize that all of those guys would have been my age, which this is my grandpa talking, and he was like 70, 71 at that point. He goes, do you really think that all just disappears in a generation? And I was like, that is so true. That is so true. Just because John Gotti gets arrested, do you really think that that it just goes away? I mean, you can look at it for terrorist organizations. You can look at it for the cartel. You can look at it for the mob. You can look at it for any gang. It doesn't just go away. And really, if your grandpa's heavily involved and maybe towards the top, or maybe he's a soldier, or he's whatever titles they give these folks, you're right. It probably doesn't just go away in a generation. They get smarter, and it never stops. They go underground. They learn the tricks of the trade, and they're not as flaunty. They're not as obvious. They're worried about their money than power, where I think there was a little bit of a rotation where you watch any documentary on the mob, I think it was power / fear / intimidation, and money was a result of it. And now I think the primary goal of these people is money. And Sherlock brings up a great question. What is the difference between the mafia and the government? One of them is organized crime. Well said, brother. Well said. Let me just crack this open quick. Crystal says, now, see, this all makes so much sense to me. And I get it. Clearly, this rumor is around still because it resonates with a lot of people. It resonates with me, too. I'm just trying, again, I could be way wrong. Guys, I'm not right 100% of the time. I do my best, but I'm not right. I've been wrong. My gut tells me all the 3-letter agencies and the mainstream narrative around this is to cover up something that truly does have to do with national security, in my opinion. There's so much effort. Okay, let me try to phrase this correctly. Excuse me. Let me try to phrase this correctly. There seems to be, what I've realized lately is that there seems to be effort to make this look sloppy to the public, but behind closed doors, it seems ultra coordinated. The timing of documents and photos released, with rulings, obviously with what's redacted, but the coordinating between the stories that will follow after, it feels extremely coordinated and neat behind closed doors. Like there is a plan, meaning they know what they're doing to continue to get us to go this way and that way and down whatever path outside of the truth. And Elbow's mom says, hey, Bertie, you are so 100% speaking truth from inside my head. I still can't get past Judge, calling Brian Koberger Brent Kopaka in one of the first hearings out of my head. What the actual F? Yeah, we all heard the Freudian slip. You can go look it up, and maybe I should actually grab that clip. Or if anybody has that clip, please post that in the Discord. But yeah, there's so many things, guys, that have not organically happened at all. One of the other parts with this feeling very coordinated is, and this has nothing to do with Stacey Chapin or the Chapin family, the fact that Othram chose this case and made a grieving mother the spokesperson at CrimeCon, which for all of these organizations that say, let the victims' families heal, stop talking about them, let them grieve. There is CrimeCon. where they sell tickets to. And you book a flight and you book a hotel. And it's this PR rollout of murder. But more importantly, Othram geniusly, to speak candidly, in a genius way, they used Stacey Chapin, because if you question their methods on IGG, they have in their back pocket the ability to tell you, you are victim shaming. You're victim blaming. Stop questioning how we got the results. Let them heal. This caught the monster that murdered their family member. And it completely distracts you from just proven science that's been wrong in court many times and has led to wrongful convictions countless times. Okay. So there, to kind of put a bow on that, it just seems like there's a very, very coordinated plan. It's meant to look sloppy to the public. All of these other rumors out here, even the news hasn't really dispelled any specific one on a big level outside of just generalizing, which is a red flag, that you're a conspiracy theorist if you question it. And that is a red flag. And that's stuff that you guys need to look for in other headlines. If they just generalize and not go and really thoroughly break down, here's why it's not the frats. Here's why it's not a drug hit. Here's why it wasn't a murder-suicide, right? That's what you need to keep your ears open for. And Sherlock, I'm so glad you brought this up, brother. Sherlock said, what if the firefighter who got sniped was going to testify about his emergency response to some of those other campus deaths, painting a totally different picture of the school, etc.? It's a great question. I had investigative journalist George Webb on my stream right after that story broke. George Webb was there. George Webb was there. If you guys remember, somebody had intentionally set a fire out in Idaho and then started shooting at the police officers and the first responders and the fire department when they showed up. One of the firefighters that was killed is suspected to be a key witness for Brian Koberger not doing this crime. There's a lot of rumors around that. It's another story that was in the headlines and then it was gone. Anything that's in the headlines and then it disappears. Let's go back. Can we take a little bit longer on that? Can we just pause for a second? Can we stop the tape? We've seen this too many times. That's a dead giveaway that they're lying. They don't respect your intelligence. It's insulting at this point. Let's be honest. It is insulting. They hate us. It seems like they hate us. The internet, and this is something that I was telling my mods prior to starting the stream. I said, it turns out we were right all along. I want to ask people a question here and put your responses in the chat. How many times and how many stories now in the last 5 years, especially, has the internet been wrong? I'm not saying that there's not wild, crazy, real theories out there that are just bananas. But when there's such a push like what we're experiencing in this case and Delphi and many other big headlines, the internet is damn near undefeated. And that is empowering for people like us. And it really goes to show that the people know the truth, whether or not the news talks about it. We need to stop thinking, but we also need to understand still how a lot of people get their news and updates on the world is, for whatever reason, they still tune in to the talking suits. But we should feel confidence that a lot of people see through it. And it's not going to slow down. It's only going to continue to build these elites and these very powerful people and news organizations. Back when there was just 3 newspapers or 3 channels, they never expected the internet. They never expected the Hive. They never expected people to be able to communicate in real time and upload old videos of all of their BS that they used to say is truth and just They're watching it unravel in real time. It's epic. It's epic, and it's because of people like myself and you. So again, tip of the hat to you guys. Cheers to the Hive. And what I got next is, now that I'm going to get a little bit conspiratorial, as our friends over on the mainstream channels would say. And that is, although these seem like innocent pictures, he's got a hoodie on, a beanie, and some gloves. I mean, for God's sakes, he's out in Idaho in the winter. But I've always thought, and now that the news is really starting to talk about this case again in a slightly different light, if this is something so much bigger, and if it makes no sense why Brian Koberger is taking a plea deal for 4 life sentences when there's enough reasonable doubt you could drown the entire state in it, I've always thought that this outfit seems almost too perfect for the news. Does anybody else get that feeling, or am I tripping? I think that this outfit, compared to what he's wearing here, you can kind of see the backside. This outfit seems a little bit too perfect for a screen grab that could be used for a narrative. And I know, like many of you in here, I can stretch my brain and go down that angle. Not everybody can. I'm not hating on people that can't. I get it. It just seems a little bit too perfect. And when something's too perfect, similar to the narrative in itself, and it stinks, and it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, it's probably an effing duck. Now, again, I'm not trying to just go in on the Goncalves family, guys. I've said this for a while now. Very rarely do I talk specifics when it comes to people that aren't publicly mentioned. And with this, I mean, this is from Facebook. This is from Rochelle. Rochelle posted this in our Discord. Thank you, Rochelle. This video down here that's referenced by whoever this creator is, the G family had said thank you in the public defense for making this about the roommates. I hope everyone will watch this. Well, I don't know if this video specifically, I'm almost positive I'm in it. And all that I said is, they heard the screams. We heard the screams. They, meaning Dylan and Bethany, they really didn't run or hide. They went back to bed. They had a ton of time. They called everybody but 911. They had time to clean. They had time to think. They had time to come up with a story, time to delete. And we're not supposed to question them. It's weird. That's how it would normally look. The overwhelming majority of cases that happen inside a house, and although, while yes, the 1122 King Road roommates, they might not have been a family per se, but if you look at any murder that occurs in a home, what do you have to do? Even though it's probably very hard for the investigators, you have to clear the family. You clear the husband, or you clear the wife, or you clear the oldest son. You have to check that box. Publicly, we have never, actually, even what's been released, it has never really felt like these two have gotten any real interrogating done to them. It's softball, kid glove questions that anybody could answer. There's no circling back and seeing, hey, did you say something different this time? Which is, if you've ever watched any interrogation, you know that that's a tactic and it's effective. Are you changing your story? It's not hard to remember the truth, but it's very hard to remember lies. And I'm glad you just said this, River Bear Teacup. River Bear Teacup said, as a parent, I would have been wanting the roommates arrested for failure to notify at the very least. We've seen the leaked text messages between Steve G and Brett Norton saying that Dylan's grand jury testimony created more questions rather than answers, and that they were texting the entire time saying a quote, "I think someone killed them." You can go look that up. You go look up the Steve G leaked text messages with Brett Norton. They're everywhere. Tons of views. So, yeah, I mean, you're right, River Bear Teacup. And then I think just in general, if you're not aware of that and you put yourself in an honest victim's family's shoes and you have to listen to these two, their answers of, I don't know what's real or fake. I was drunk. I heard everything except for when it's important or would make a difference in any detail of what happened. And then you have to sit there and listen to an investigator talk about his glory days where he would pay rent by hosting a kegger, and they laugh 4 days later as your son or daughter was being murdered. That's enraging. And to not question that is just, it's a clown world. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And whether or not they have any involvement in it, people can have their opinions on it. Let's just talk about the process. Let's talk about the process and how truly, you want to talk about offensive. You want to talk about offensive. Very rarely do I get offended. I would tell you right now, I'd want to run through these two girls' faces and come out their ass how pissed I'd be if I had a daughter or a son that was murdered and they were home and they heard all this and they didn't call. Like I said, it'd be like that chick on Dr. Phil that was like, "Catch me outside." How about that? Like, kind of making a meme out of it, but it doesn't make sense. I don't know how any parent or family member could sit there and hear that shit at all. Even if my brother, my sister, my cousin, it's wild. It's wild to me. And again, thank you to everybody that is tuning in. We got almost 1,500 people in here between YouTube and X. We are streaming on both of them. I typically will do that on the weekends. Guys, let's try to get to 1,000 likes. Hitting the like button is the best way that sends it out into the algorithm. We want to obviously continue to spread the truth. And if you guys wouldn't mind to share this to your NPC over-fluoridated normie zombie friends who don't know how to critically think, I would appreciate that. Try to wake them up, right? Have empathy for these people that don't know how to use their brain and they just parrot whatever their favorite talking suit says. Now, Kathy had sent this next screenshot in from the Discord. So thank you to everybody that's been putting stuff into the Discord in our Idaho 4 case chat discussion. Kathy said, "This reads like a birdie crash out, but I'm just getting this out." And I'm not going to play it again. You guys can go look it up on my TikTok, or I have it as a short that's posted. I lost my mind. I lost my absolute mind on Globe Media for posting an article about how now Brian Koberger apparently posed the bodies. And I said a couple streams ago, I'm like, what's next? Brian Koberger ate Xana's DoorDash. We think he ate the fries. And then he drew a bubble bath and poured himself a glass of wine, smoked a dart. That's why the cigarette's there. I mean, these people, they will stop at nothing to make this evidence work for such a bullshit story. It's kind of embarrassing at this point for them. It is embarrassing for them at this point. But let me go ahead and read this comment. The comment was from Crazy Bird Lady. "So one man walked into a random home he's never been in with the lights on, music blaring, 6 cars out front, ninja style, unalive 4 people he had no connection with that were awake and fighting for their lives. He took the time to pose them and cover them, but he managed to forget the knife sheath. And then he cleaned up all under 12 minutes and managed to do it without leaving shoe prints or any of his DNA at the scene." I'll add in outside of trace DNA, which we know has been wrong many times in court. And then also managed to not have any of their DNA in his car or at home. Nope. And yeah, that is, it's maddening. It is maddening to say the least. There are hundreds of Redditors that say this. It's unbelievable. But Ted Bundy, The only reason those numbskulls are saying Ted Bundy is because in the beginning of this story, Ted Bundy and serial killers they were inserted into the narrative. Brian Koberger is a criminology PhD student that studies the way criminals and killers and rapists think. But his survey, okay, either way, he's supposed to be researching it. Are you guys surprised he knows about it? So they look at his search history and it's got Ted Bundy. They look at his search history and it's got other people that have done this. That's the only reason that these people are saying Ted Bundy. And they don't even realize that it was implanted into their brains and their thought process by the very people that have bent them over the barrel and had their way with them for decades. And I do have empathy because it's like, if you don't see it by now, you're never going to see it. I don't know if there's any helping them. You need to not live under a rock. You need to learn about the government that governs you. You need to learn about the media system in your country. How does it work? Not conspiracies, like proven beyond a reasonable doubt. It's an irrefutable fact at this point that this was a lie. And for whatever reason, there is a rather large majority of the population all over the world that they've been conditioned. If it's not on their television at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or in the morning when they're getting ready for work, it's not true. It's so asinine. It's so asinine. It's just ridiculous. When everybody has a phone now, everybody has social media now. We don't need news cameras. We got amazing cameras on the backs of our phones that are there. Point of view, stories. We can see it. We can literally see it happening in real time all over the world. And it's not going to stop. It's only going to continue to, get better and get better for us, rather, in knowing the truth faster and quicker and discrediting these clown punchers that sit up at the news desk and read a teleprompter. So let me lay out the rest of the stream. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play this 5-minute video from Kathy's Indie Zone. Please go give Kathy, go hit subscribe for Kathy and like this video. It's a great update on what is going on with the WSU lawsuit, saying that they should have known Brian Koberger was going to cross state lines and kill 4 students in Idaho at a different university. WSU is now on the hook for it. And then because last night, Mrs. Birdie and I, we had some friends out of town, or friends in town, that didn't know if they were going to be able to meet up for dinner. They kind of last minute were able to. I didn't do the call in. So for the second hour of the show, after I play this, I'm going to post the link in the chat and we will do a call in. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts. All right. Type of 1 if that sounds good. Let me do a temperature check and then I'll get this going. And when you guys call in, don't hold back. Don't hold back. I want to hear your truth. Everybody wants to hear everybody's truth, okay? Don't be nervous. Your face isn't going to be on camera. It's only going to be your voice. All right? And I agree with Dolly Butts. In my opinion, it has the police written all over it, which hell will freeze over if we are able to put enough pressure on the mainstream news and this narrative in general that if it's a big if, both capital letters, a police officer was involved. That's another rumor that has a lot of weight to it, just like the frats and the drug hit does. So, all right, let me get this pulled up. And then I will, as this is playing, I will post the link for the call-ins in the chat for StreamYard. You just got to tap it. Make sure you have YouTube exited out, or if you are watching on your TV, that it's muted so that we don't get an echo. Without further ado, here we go. Did I not press play this entire time? Jesus. I'm so sorry, Hive. Christ. My bad. All right, here we go. So sorry, Hive. That's on me. All right, but the link is in the chat now. My bad. My B. I will clown horn myself. That's on me.
The state court jurisdiction. The state court is no longer able. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the...
All right, here we go. I got it going. I'm going to put it at 1.25. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We had previously informed you that the Attorney General of the state of Washington has made an appearance in Gonzalez et al. Versus Washington State University and is representing WSU in the multiple count complaint and the lawsuit that was lodged against WSU by the families of the 4 students who are the plaintiffs who were lost at 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022. On January 27th, 2026, a notice of removal was filed by the defense in state court where the case was filed and had been proceeding up through yesterday, the 27th of January, 2026. This notice of removal has extinguished the state court jurisdiction. The state court is no longer able to proceed with this case. The venue has now moved to the United States District Court. If you look at the docket for the case, the first docketed item is the aforementioned notice of removal from state to federal court. Also on January 27th, 2026. Document number 2 is verification of the state court records associated with the notice of removal, along with the declaration of Connor M. Callahan. He is from the Attorney General's office. He is an Assistant Attorney General who will be representing the defense, along with Jordan Jones, a second Assistant Attorney General. There were 3 items that were filed today. The first is an application of an attorney for the plaintiff, Jonathan Kiefer, for leave. That means permission to appear pro hoc vice for all plaintiffs. And this indicates that he is not licensed in district court in Washington to appear in the case. He is seeking permission to do so. That is document entry number 4. Document entry number 5, also dated the 28th of January, 2026, is an application of attorney Jack Hyde for leave to appear pro hoc vice for all plaintiffs. And then finally, the most recent document, document number 6, also dated January 28th, 2026, application of attorney Lindsay Scarcello for leave. Again, that's permission to appear before the court pro hoc vice for all plaintiffs. And that is the 6th and final document that appears on the docket. This is United States District Court for the Western District of Washington and Seattle Division, civil docket case number 226CV 00301. Again, 226CV 00301. If you would like to look at the filings in federal court where the case is now proceeding, and you can review the documents on PACER. That is the online electronic filing system that allows you to review. The jurisdiction that's raised here is federal question. And the reason why it's federal question is because the plaintiffs filed an action, count 1, Title 9, which is a federal statute. If and when there's any notification that an action to try to get the case sent back to state court has been initiated, we will advise you. We will also advise you when the defense files its either responsive motion, which could be a motion to dismiss, that defendants will sometimes file in lieu of an answer, or if they just go ahead and file the answer and their defenses to the allegations in the complaint. Sometimes counterclaims are brought against plaintiffs. Sometimes third-party defendants, like Mr. Koberger, speaking with pure speculation here, just giving an example of who might be a third-party defendant if the defense elects to do so. There's no indication that they will. We will continue to keep you posted, and as further developments arise, we will advise you. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.
I just think, I'll listen to Kathy's
Ladies
video.
and gentlemen, well,
I'll listen to Kathy's videos from time to time. Very well spoken. I saw some people saying, you know, a little bit slow, but I just turned it on 1.25 and you know, you can get through that. But very good information. So again, make sure that you guys go give Kathy a like and a subscription. Here is her page. I'll put it full screen here. Right here. Kathy's Indie Zone. Like, boom. I actually didn't even know I wasn't even subscribed, but now I am. So nonetheless, I just wanted to show that because I know the WSU lawsuit, guys. I mean, there's a couple things. Let me just say this. We know that the danger of a civil suit is because of discovery, right? So discovery, for those of you that don't know what it means, right? There will be emails or any type of internal communication. What policies did they apply or not apply, which is going to be a huge deal in this case with policy failures. Were there prior warnings? And what is this, the exposure for liability, right? When you move a jurisdiction, so I was researching this prior to the stream because I was curious, like, why would somebody do that? Take the conspiracy angle out of it. Sometimes moving jurisdictions allows you to you can narrow what evidence is discoverable. It can change timelines. You can limit certain public access depending on where it's at, right? It can also do one really key thing, and I believe that this might be the reason. It could reduce press coverage. Maybe it moves to an area, and I'm generalizing here, but maybe it moves to an area where people just aren't interested and people don't care. Or maybe it's it's biased. It depends on where are you holding this lawsuit? What do the people in this area believe or typically tend to believe? Right? So I think it's interesting. And again, guys, if you want to call in and give me your thoughts, I got the link posted and pinned at the top of the chat. Anybody can do it. Try to keep it short, keep it concise, say whatever you want. You know, probably limit it to about 3 to 5 minutes. But other than that, call in. I mean, right now there's nobody backstage, which is fine. If nobody does call in, I can keep talking. And I have no problem doing that. I got a lot of information to go over. But I always love hearing people's thoughts and what you all think about this case. Certainly on social media, there's a tidal wave of narrative change, and it's amazing to see. It's great to see. It's why we do this. It's why we should continue to be motivated by this momentum. And we can't stop now that we finally just have the first mainstream organizations pulling their head out of where the sun doesn't shine and talking about it. Like, maybe there is 2 people, right? I'm not the only person to say this. The Idaho 4 prediction, and here's what's going to happen next, is they're going to say maybe there was 2 people. Dr. Turvey said you couldn't pose the bodies, the blood, the cleanup, all this stuff. Now they're going to go into that, and they're going to say it was Brian Koberger and somebody else. Okay, I believe that there was more than 2 people, and we can't let off the gas just because we got a little win. Okay. We need to win the war, not just these battles. All right. And, all right, we got Uncle Daddy backstage. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Uncle Daddy. And then Sherlock Rhodes is backstage. Hell yeah. All right. Well, Uncle Daddy, welcome to the Hive. How are you doing?
Hey, buddy. Good, good.
Good to talk to you again, man. You called in last time or 2 times ago, I believe.
I did. I got a double dog award, by the way.
Oh, that's right. You did. I remember that. So
we're still celebrating that at the house. Same old. Hey, I put something on Discord where I took the amino black, all the wipings from the amino black, which is blue, and I turned it to red.
Okay.
And it's pretty interesting when you see it on that level, because that makes you really realize how much there was, for one. And it made me think, why did they make it all blue like that? And I think, to me anyway, when you look at the blue, you don't really see red, right? You just see blue, and it's kind of a neutral color or whatever, and it doesn't have the shock value. So because everybody was they just splash it on, that's crazy. So you see all the red, you'd go, oh, maybe that's why they did it.
I'm trying to pull it up on Discord right now. Where did you post it in the photos section?
I posted in Hive Mind Finds.
In Hive Mind Finds. Okay. All right. Let me find that. No,
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
that isn't, I mean, dude, I do think that there's absolute truth to that, where it's like, when you put a filter on it, people need to understand that. Let's address this. Can a filter make something look different? Yes. But when it's something like Amido Black
Absolutely.
and it's blood drip, and it's rather a simple, it's a simple image in a way, right? It can totally change how people can see it. And I'm scrolling down through the Hive Mind Finds right now, dude. I'm trying to, there we go. All right. So let me, so is this, let me see.
Yeah. Yeah. I put a double on there so you can
Wow.
see. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
I mean, all that blue was red at one time, right? Isn't that how it works?
Well, and I know that people have their opinions on the Amido Black, and people are like, well, no, it would be dark blue. Again, everybody can research this for themselves. I'm a big believer that this was diluted in water, and that's why they've referred to that's why they say the word, it was diluted. Because if it's not straight up blood and blood is mixed with water, does it not show up as dark in Amido Black? Maybe. Right? I understand people are going to say that's not all blood. I understand it's not all blood.
Right. No, and I agree with that 100%. That's just how it came across. But when I put it in chat and I said, turn all the blue to red. But I mean, some of that's blood.
Well, and for what people don't understand here, let me do this. Let's just, oh shoot. Let me screenshot this while you're on the phone here. People have to understand that when you are using Amido Black picks up blood proteins. Okay. So if I screenshot this, right, and I don't know, I mean, I've put it into Chat GPT before when I've screenshotted it. And if I say, if, oh, why isn't it pasting in there? All right. If someone used water and a rag to clean up blood and Amido Black was used and the water was running with blood protein in it, would it look like this? And I'll show it here. Let's just see what it says. I've put it in there before, and it says that yes, it would typically. It says I can't determine, but I can't determine what the substance present is or whatever. Yada yada yada. But
it's consistent with the yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing is, like, Amido Black is a protein stain. When it's applied to surfaces that can contain protein residues, including blood proteins, it binds to them and it produces a dark blue or blue to black coloration. And so I don't know. There's obviously confusion around the Amido Black. It just, I find it hard to believe that it would just be like just dumped, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's weird. It doesn't seem like it's from cleaning products that it turns that color, and they use it for that specific reason to bring out that red stuff. So,
right. No,
one question I had for you that I wanted to address to the Hive is, you know how when Dylan's talking to Gunnarsson and with all her interviews, she says she saw the man, blah, blah, blah. Okay, put it into perspective. She just saw this person and post unalivings, right? Yep. Did they never even asked her, well, was he breathing hard? Was he sweating?
No, you're so right.
Right.
Dude, I saw it. I'm so sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, to that point, bro, I saw somebody on TikTok say, here's a theory that I can get behind. And it was Brian Koberger left Dylan alive because he couldn't physically continue. Now, I would argue that on a very simple thought process, that would make sense. But it's like people don't include cleanup, timeline, the DNA.
Yeah.
30 days, the world's most wanted car. So yeah, no, I think it's a good point. And I didn't mean
Has
to interrupt.
anybody
What were you
seen
gonna
that car? Because they talk about how that car got cleaned, and I'm like, have you seen that car when they pulled it over on the highway and they kind of panned down onto the car? It's filthy.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I heard somebody else say, with all of his OCD, it would have taken forever to clean that place up.
It would have. You're totally right. I mean, yeah,
Look
people
at
want
his
to say,
house. Look at his, yeah.
that's such a good point, man. And I appreciate you calling in, brother. And
All
I
right,
always
bro.
look forward when I see your name in the chat. And
Yep.
I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Cheers.
Likewise, Birdie. Likewise, chat.
Yep. Peace. See you. Next up, we have one of the OGs from the Hive, even back on TikTok. And I can tell you, it is always an honor and a pleasure to have Sherlock Romes here in the Hive. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Sherlock up on stage. Brother man, what's going on?
Hey, Birdie, can you hear me all right?
Yes, let me just in chat, please. If you guys can hear, I'm just typing one quick, crystal clear. I think there's a little echo from me. I don't know if you got me on your TV or something, but
Oh, no. All I can see is,
no, people can hear you. You're good, man. What do you got?
okay, I can just see the backstage thing. So my thoughts today have been occupied by Hunter and his behavior. I've been like watching the body cam footage and sort of revisiting that whole saga. And Hunter's behavior is just so bizarre and makes so little sense. Like, I'm not talking about his hands being up over his head, like the anxiety posture or the knife being in this place or that place. I'm talking about just what he's able to see in that bedroom. Like, like the whole 911 call is based on this premise of an unconscious person, right? And when you watch the body cam footage, when Hunter's bringing the officer into Zaina's bedroom, he's literally telling the officer, like, I don't know. I don't even know what any of this means. I don't know what I'm looking at. He literally tells him, he's like, I don't know. I can't tell if I can get a pulse. Like, I don't know if they're alive or dead, you know? And the officer knows immediately just by looking at, you know, we all saw the pictures. Just like any of us looking at the pictures would know immediately what the state of the decedents are, that they are deceased. Hunter's acting like he just doesn't know. There's no way. It's literally impossible for him to know, right?
Yeah, it's wild, man, because there's such a there's a human aspect to this. There's a human aspect to it that people want to forget, and they want to sweep it under the rug of shock or fear or grief or whatever it is, right? Like we've seen that many times. However, when we, meaning people that didn't go into that room, see the autopsy reports, I don't know if there's a single person that has a pulse. Like if you're a living, breathing person and you walked into that room and then you saw what we're seeing described in the autopsy reports, how do you not know they're dead?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like if you're using your eyes, right? Not your crazy eyes, your real eyes, right?
Yes.
Not these crazy NPC eyes that people seem to have. No, but I'm telling you, even the officer, like there's a second officer right after, like, first of all, the officer looks back at Hunter and I'm sure he just gave him a face. And he was like, please go over there and get out of this room and go stand over there. That's the first thing he says to him. And as he walks back through the hallway, there's another officer like pacing up the stairs. He's running. And the original officer slows him down and says, stop running. We've got 2 fatalities. And so the officer knows it's fatalities right away, right? And it just bothers me a lot that of the 3 different people on this 911 call for an unconscious person, none of them mentioned the state of the decedents at all. They all pretended not to know what any other person would obviously know if they had seen what they had seen. And yeah, just nobody will ever convince me that that's normal. It's just not normal. It does not make sense.
Well, and make sure you stick to your guns on that, because that's important, right? If you feel that and that's in your gut and that's your instinct and you've looked into other stuff and you have a good read on that and you typically, you know, right more times than not when you have father time on your side when things start to progress and then the truth comes out. So stick to that. But I've become more and more convinced, man. I want to get your thoughts on this. I've become more and more convinced that the cleanup wasn't even to get rid of DNA. The cleanup was to allow right? So if a death occurs in a frat or sorority, you're supposed to call your counselor, then the authorities get called, then the victims' families get called. But you have a plan. You coordinate a plan. Like there's literally documents that lay this out for Greek life. And I do wonder if the plan, given everything that happened once the students called their Greek life, the Greek life calls the cops show up, they coordinate a plan, was the cleanup to allow for the unconscious partier narrative. And it's not really
like to reduce the amount of blood, maybe
so that you
to
don't
reduce
walk
the
in.
amount of blood to make it more plausible that, hey, someone could perceive this as an unconscious person
Yes.
call. But
That's
like
what I
that, even with that, that's hard for me to believe, because like if Hunter had said, well, there's blood everywhere. Obviously, I can see the blood everywhere. I think this girl might be unconscious because she lost a ton of blood. If he had said that, well, even that would be better. Even I could wrap my mind around that at least. But he doesn't even do that. He just totally pretends. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I don't know what any of this is.
Do you realize how insane it is?
I'm here in the crime scene. I'm in the house. I'm right in the crime scene, but I'm a million miles away at the same time. I have no idea what any of this is. It's just absurd.
It is absurd, dude. And what is so wild to me, and I don't want to crash out about the headlines again with posing the bodies being Brian Koberger. It was his defense expert. It was literally his defense expert saying it looks like the bodies are posed. And if you read anything more than that one sentence, you would realize he's talking about, being Dr. Turvey, that this was not possible. The timeline, the lack of blood, all of that stuff. And he's saying it, the bodies are covered. It's staged. And to what I read in that comment before, where somebody said it sounded like a birdie crash out, but he left the sheath. He staged it all. He cleaned up everything else, but he left a sheath, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you, dude, is like, how wild is it that there is an expert that is saying this and nobody is taking it seriously except for us?
Well, because an expert, a crime scene expert, is only taken as seriously as he's allowed to be verbally talking in a courtroom, in an open public courtroom, to the public, and testifying about his analysis. Like, again, in 900 days of hearings, nobody, and I mean nobody, on the defense side was allowed to confront, challenge, or cross-examine any of the evidence called against Brian. No defense experts were, I mean, I think there's a few defense experts about DNA who were allowed to quibble. They were allowed to quibble and nothing else. But I mean, a defense expert talking about the crime scene, nobody takes it seriously. A lot of people don't even know about it because there's no public, disclosure of that. There's no trial. There's no cross-examination, right?
Exactly.
That's the most important thing.
And dude, while I got you up here, I wanted to ask you about this because I got a lot of questions on it. I showed your post.
Okay.
I showed your post where you talked about and I'll read this again real quick, Sherlock, and then I want you to respond. So Sherlock had posted this, I believe this was 2 days ago now. The crime scene photos just unsealed were withheld from Brian's defense team the entire time leading up to the plea deal. That's right. Ann Taylor and team are seeing this all for the first time along with the rest of us. In fact, there's 398 forensic photos in total that were withheld in discovery in the 2+ years Brian was trying to fight for his freedom. This is wholesale illegal in every conceivable way. There was literally no way for him to defend himself at all with this exculpatory evidence withheld. Where the F is every defense attorney right now? I don't think Brian's post-plea team should wait any longer on this. File and relitigate now. And I agree. Stop playing chess. Start throwing chairs. Go scorched earth. So people had some questions about this. I mean, in general, when you were writing this or when you posted this, I can just probably picture the thoughts going through your head of just, this is insanity. This is wild.
It's totally abnormal. It is not normal. It's extremely aberrational. We have laws like Brady Law. Brady Law is that exculpatory evidence cannot be withheld by the state. That's it. It's that simple. Like, you need to hand over in real time, not in your crazy NPC brain, fake ass time that you guys love to use with the timeline and everything. You need to hand over exculpatory evidence in real time to the defense. The 398 photos that were withheld from the defense team, those photos change the defense so much, right? If you look at the legal arguments and Judge Hippler's logic and rationale for rejecting multiple perpetrator defense, when you look at that logic and that rationale and the legal arguments behind it, if we had these photos, that would have changed the whole game. Like that logic wouldn't have worked. There would have been so much more legal standing and legal backing to a multiple perp defense. And I'm gonna end after this, but I just want to remind people the whole reason we have murder trials, like the whole reason murder trials exist, there's only one reason that murder trials exist. And this is what it is. It's to make sure they arrested the right person. Okay, so when a judge, like in Delphi, when Judge Gull bans third-party defense, or when Judge Hippler calls all the alternative perpetrator evidence just, hearsay, well, you are undermining not only the burden of proof being on the state, but you're further undermining the very, the expressed purpose of why we have murder trials in the first place. Like, the only natural alternative to the police getting it wrong is an alternative perpetrator. So if you ban the only natural alternative to the police getting it wrong, then you might as well not have a trial. You might as well not have any court hearings, because that just means you've decided already that this person's guilty, no matter what. So that's what bothers me the most about it, is that it's not just a departure from like the burden of proof being on the state. It is all those things, but it's also undermines the very foundational principle of why murder trials even exist in the first place.
Yep. No, well said. Yeah. And dude, unless you gotta run right now, can I ask you one more question?
No, go for it.
Okay. So we've started to feel, and I know you've been here since day one, and you've been talking about this case a lot, and we've worked together in the past, but I would think that the majority of people would agree this is the most public tidal wave of people living in reality with what most likely is the truth in this case, that it was a cover-up, it was a botched investigation, Brian's framed, whatever you want to put on it, right? I think most people would agree with that now. How do we course correct after the news starts to say this? Because what I am fearful of happening, what really pisses me off too, is there will be a media report on it, and then it will go away. Nobody's held accountable, and it just, poof, it's gone. And I don't know how it continues to happen. But again, this is the case for myself that I've dug my heels in on, and I've said, no, this is wrong, because this is truly the biggest red pill on showing everybody it could be you. You could literally be stargazing.
Easily.
You know, it's wild. And so how do we course correct?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned before, Bertie, right, the concession, you'll start seeing, we're on the right side when you start seeing the mainstream media who haven't budged in years, multiple years. All of a sudden we see these slight concessions, right? Oh, maybe there are multiple perps, right? They start changing their narrative all of a sudden to start fitting all the new evidence coming up that we've been talking about the whole time, right? And how do you course correct? So the way I like to think about it, let me give you an analogy. Okay, let's say someone took some chalk and drew a number on the ground. Okay, let's say they drew a 6 on the ground, and then they left, and 2 other people come see the number, and they're standing on either side of it, and one of them has a view of what's written on the ground, and the other person looking from the other direction has a different worldview of what's written on the ground. Right? One of them says it's a 6. The other is looking from a different angle, says, no, it looks like a 9. Right? Because they're looking at the same thing, but they have different worldviews. Okay? And what's happening with this case is that there are bad actors who are putting out so much misinformation, they want to make it so confusing and difficult for people to delineate fact from fiction that we end up arguing about whether, figuratively, we will argue forever about whether it's a 6 or a 9, right? Our worldviews will cloud our judgment, and we'll just argue forever about, and eventually we'll get so fatigued that we'll say to ourselves, well, there's no way to tell. There's no way no one will ever know the truth. There's no way that will ever happen. We'll never know if it's a 6 or a 9. That's what they want us to, that's the hole they want us to fall into. That it's literally impossible to ever know the truth. No, 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 no. How we course correct is by reminding ourselves that there is always a way to find the right answer. It is never hopeless. You go find the person who drew the fucking number and you ask them, did they draw a 6 or a 9? Just because we can all look at the same things and see things from a different viewpoint because of our differing worldviews, it doesn't mean we don't share the same premise of base reality. That base reality is still uniformly the same to all of us, no matter what our differing views are. And it's the recognition of that and not falling into the hopelessness hole of, oh, we'll never be able to find out the truth. No, 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 no. We course correct by following our intuition and continuing to dig on this stuff until one day we will be able to have evidence that is like beyond incontrovertible, like irrefutable evidence of what really happened. And we have been getting steps and steps closer to that this entire time. We have been. So I think that's how we course correct.
Well said. And as you were saying that, I threw this image up on the screen. It's not exactly the 6 or the 9, but I'm sure most people have seen this. There's some text on it that somebody on Google had added, but
that's a great guess.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Here's the real scene. Here's the real scene. But here's what people want.
Of reality. Yeah.
It's so accurate.
It's like Plato's cave.
Yes.
It's like Plato's cave. You know, we may be the outcast, right? We may be the shunned and the shamed on the outskirts of the mainstream ethos, right? They may try to push us out there, right? We may be the little man and not the big man. But in Plato's cave analogy, a little man can cast a very large shadow.
Amen to that, brother.
Use that to our advantage. Let's leverage that.
Well said, man. And as always a pleasure and an honor to chat with you. I hope everything's going great. You have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for the call, Sherlock. Now, next up, we have Toes, T.O.E.S. coming up on stage, not the dot. Okay. I know people will get their panties in a bunch if you even say dot, but we're going to have Toes on up here in the chat. And welcome to the Hive Call-In Show, Toes. How are you doing today?
Hey, Birdie. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother, man. What do you got for us?
Yo, I want to talk about one of your videos you dropped the other day. I left a comment where I think the comment was, you're 100% correct about your theory about the cleanup with the amino black.
Mm-hmm.
And after I watched that, and, you know, it made sense, especially like how you showed the fingerprints, and if there's no protein there, it just won't show up. But after I watched that video, I got to thinking, and I went back and looked at the body cam footage of when the cops, you know, entered up there. And when you look on that banister, you know, on the 3rd floor, there was like lights, decorative lights up on there, maybe some other things. So like, here's the problem. When they would have did that testing, you would think that you want to leave the crime scene as natural as possible when you're, you know, checking for that amino.
Yes.
And the fact that those items weren't on there in the pictures that you were showing, but they were on there when the body cam footage, you know, when the officers were up there, kind of almost to me proves that it was a cleanup. Because if they would have sprayed that amino on those lights and there was nothing that showed up, but you see all that blood that shows up, you know, then that goes to prove that those lights were staged after the cleanup.
Yes, I'm following you. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, because the other part too, you brought up a good point about the amino black and just the crime scene preservation in general. I mean, the house getting torn down, I'm sure you and I both could crash out over that. It's ridiculous. Did you see, and Hive, help me out, because I want to make sure I give credit to this creator. Somebody did post this video about, I think maybe it was Harsh. Maybe it was Harsh, but maybe he was using somebody else's video. I don't know if you saw this, Toes. He went into the when you're renting out a house, and you know how you post like the bedroom photos empty and stuff on like rent.com or apartments.com. You know what I mean? He pointed out, somebody was pointing out the vents, how there was vents. And if you know how a ventilation system in a house works, right? There's that metal box that the heat or your air conditioning runs through, and then there's vents. And most times you got a vent in the ceiling and then a vent on the floor right above it, because that metal box carrying the hot or the cold air is in the mid-level, right? Or it's wherever it connects. And they pointed out in this video that in Bethany's room, the vent to Xana's room was directly above it. So then that argument for the theory on why the house gets torn down is maybe not even, well, we know it's also just covering it up, but the acoustics of the house.
Yeah,
that would have been tested.
And I've done my own theories on why I believe that house was torn down. I don't know if you know this, but I'm from that area in general.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, and I've built houses that, I'm from Spokane, but I've built houses in Coeur d'Alene, that whole area, northern Idaho, western Montana, eastern Washington. And what's been going on in the past few years is there's been a huge influx of population. Just last year alone, Spokane has gotten like 60,000 people, new people that has moved to that area, not just Spokane, but Coeur d'Alene. So if you look at that neighborhood, and if you really think about wintertime, that whole neighborhood is a liability. It is kind of like outgrown itself from the original construction. Instead, those were probably originally intended for one student apartments, but instead you had 3 or 4 people living in apartments, which means more parking, tighter spaces. Yeah. I'm pretty sure insurance claims were, nutty as hell especially during the wintertime, vehicles sliding into other vehicles, and the trash pickup people probably having problems even picking up just all that stuff. And if you look at the architecture of President Green, if you look at the architecture of his presidential mansion, and if you know what's going on, just in that area with development, that neighborhood didn't accommodate the brand new architecture of Green's presidential mansion. So, and I did videos. Actually, the video I had made on it was called Harsh Realty, not Harsh Reality, but Harsh Realty.
Oh, it was? Okay.
And I even did like 3D images of what that neighborhood is going to, look like. Let's talk economics. I know I'm kind of like dragging on here.
No, you're good, man. What's your channel name? Let me pull it up so people can. Right here. I got it right here. Turning over every second. Here you go. All right. So make sure you guys go give Toes a subscription. But go ahead, brother. You can continue. Here it is.
So you got the King Road house, for example, and I think they were paying about $2,400 a month in rent, right?
Yep.
So boom, you knock that house down, and you knock a couple other houses down, and what they're building in that area, they're building up now. You know what I mean? Like, they're just economically, and so many people moving to that area, you could build 100 units in the same square footage as where you had just the one King Road house. And you could do it in such a way as to where, we got flock everywhere. Oh yeah, 24-hour security cameras and underground parking. And so you do the math, they're still going to charge $2,400 a unit, but now it's $2,400 times 100 instead of just $2,400 for this one house. It's
yes. Well, I absolutely know what you're saying. Yes.
So like, don't be surprised in the next couple of years, if not less than that, if you hear of them tearing down the rest of the houses in that neighborhood too, because there's that neighborhood's a liability in 100 different ways.
Toes, Grandma Grizz left a comment. I didn't know this. Toes worked with George Webb on the firefighting shooting. Did you?
I got chill bumps. I kind of don't want to talk about that, but it is important. Okay. And the only reason I'm going to try to be as cautious as I can when talking about this, because it actually hit home. Like I said, I'm from that area.
Yeah.
My kids know some of the other kids, and even my nieces and nephews that went to school in Coeur d'Alene, you know, they all, it's a small world, and you know, but my particular involvement with that really is none. But my daughter, fuck it, excuse me, I'll just come out and say it. My daughter was chilling at Coeur d'Alene Beach one day, and I don't have my notes in front of me to give you the exact dates, but this is about 2 weeks before that shooting occurred in Coeur d'Alene, right? And she leaves, like there was cops there, and they just started randomly picking up people. Are like, yeah, we want to search your purse. We want to search your purse. And my daughter was like in the water when she realized that there was these like cops, like kind of like going through her purse. So she comes out and she's like, what are you doing? They're like, oh yeah, we're doing alcohol checks. Anyway, so yeah. That's, bro, I could tell you 1,000 stories about Idaho, bro. That's why I've been on this case, not just since day one, but about a month before this happened when they did that Doug Wilson episode on NBC about the dude.
Remember that.
So about an hour or so after she left, my daughter's going through her purse and she finds his cell phone in her purse, right? Like a brand new like Apple cell phone. And so she goes through the phone and it's like so new where there's not like a lot of contacts in it. And there was one listed like his grandma. And so she called the granny, and the grandma was like, yeah, that's my grandson's phone. And she gave her the mom's number. And so my daughter calls, and the mom lives like in Arizona. So my daughter calls mom like, hey, I got somebody's phone. They just like, it was found on my purse. And she's like, oh, that's my son's phone. And yada, yada, yada. So my daughter calls me like, I think that same night, and I'm like, Sadie, you need to like get rid of that phone. Like they could be tracking you, you know, because especially with the Apple phone. And at that time, my page was like way more active, you know what I mean? Because that's why I stepped away from the scene, because a lot of extra weird stuff started happening, dude. I think I was getting a little too close to the truth of things. And so fast forward, make a long story short, when that shooting occurred, and when they announced the kid's name, and when they found, you know, I called my daughter. I'm like, Sadie, what was the name of the kid? And what? And she had told me, and I'm like, that's the same kid that was doing the shooting with the firefighters. You know, that whole weird situation. And so I was the one that pretty much connected that. That's why George Webb was doing the episode about the phone. And stuff like that.
That was because of you.
Yeah. I'm the one that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I had goosebumps. Jesus, I watched
Dude, I do too, dude. Like, I don't even, it's just, and the reason why I don't like talking about it, because it's not about me, it's about my daughter. You know what I mean? So it's like, by all means, I have to, like, you know, protect my children. And it might have just been a weird coinky dink, but what's the odds that and even the situation with that kid that did that in Coeur d'Alene is just weird too. But what's the odds that his phone ends up in her purse like 2 weeks before this happened? And like,
his phone was in your daughter's purse.
His phone was in my daughter's purse.
Just so everybody's understanding that clearly, the firefighter sniper's phone was in this man's daughter's purse after the police found it on the beach, it sounds like, and she was in the water, and they were looking for alcohol. Jesus Christ. Dude, yeah, I mean, look, I full body chills right now. What came of it? Anything that you could share or no? And don't feel pressure to, seriously. I mean, I get that that's real. It's your daughter and stuff, but just what happened? What ended up happening?
It just, I tried to reach out to the mother, because my daughter was all freaked out when she realized the whole connection. You know what I mean? Like, I was the one that made her aware of it when, you know, because that's what I do. I do investigative journalism. So it could be a stop sign, and I'm going to be like, oh, where did the paint come from? Where was it manufactured? And, you know, how tall is it? So I overlook everything. And But I tried to reach out to the mom after the fact, and she never responded. And I kind of preferred it that way because, like I said, I already had enough issues with the Idaho case and how close to home that was already getting. Like, my daughter worked, one of my other daughters worked with, like, earlier in the case, there was a gentleman that came out that said he lived in that house. And my daughter worked with him. You know what I mean? So there was just all these weird connections. One of my other daughters grew up with Xana's sister, Jasmine. You know, so it's like there was just too many connections. And dude, I'm an easygoing person, and I want no problems in life. And so whatever happened there, it just really doesn't go any further than my feelings, and I just leave it at that. I don't really have too much more to talk about it, but I did want to commend you on that video, because I think that's a really important video that you did with that Amino Black. I think it really does prove. And like I said, with the lack of those lights being up there, it kind of more like, were those, yeah, that was the question I was going to ask. Like, those lights, were those ever entered in, were they ever inventoried? Like, I'm not,
think they were.
I don't think that they were either. And that's important, because why, you can't spray that banister without spraying it in its original form, you know. And if they remove those lights before or after, to me, it just more or less proves that it was a cleanup. And if it was a cleanup, then we got a big problem here.
And that, I mean, dude, first of all, amazing call, Toes. I gotta, if you have emailed me, or if you hit me up on Discord, send me another message. Sometimes it gets lost in just a bunch of them. So send me a message, dude. I'd like to pick your brain on that. Maybe see if George Webb would be interested again. Not that we necessarily just have to talk about the phone, but I think that with the sheriff's warrant return and the firefighting incident, maybe it's going to come into play again. And I don't think that would be something that we should just forget about, given the timing of the plea deal happening right after this. Right. So I would love to chat with you offline, maybe set up a date if you would be interested with George. But I appreciate the call, bro. Stay safe. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And you got the best audience out there. Good show. Kudos up to you. And
thank you.
Man, keep doing good work, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
For sure.
Yep. Peace. Wow. That's the amazing part of these call-ins, Hive. It's awesome. I literally have chills and goosebumps all over my legs right now hearing that. I can't imagine that situation. So I will talk with Toes. I'll find some more info out on that, see if he'd be willing to share anything else. Talk with George Webb. It's been a minute since I've had him on the stream. I think George is great. Always been super nice to me. Always diving into stuff that's breaking. And I think what Toes finished with is a great way to wrap up the stream. And that's what he had said is, if there's a cleanup, we got problems. And that's why the theme or the thumbnail is busted. They are busted. And now the whole world's going to know about it. They tried to cover it up. Turns out we were right all along. And again, very rarely is the internet wrong in situations like this. So shout out to the Hive. Shout out to everybody that did call in. Thank you all so much for tuning in this Saturday. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. I will be back on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. Please hit that like button on the way out. Where is it? Here's the QR code. I'll put it full screen one more time. If you guys want to screenshot that, tap that link. It'll take you to all the Hive socials. I will have these shirts hopefully up by the end of the weekend. Again, I know I've been taking forever on that, so I'm working on it through technical difficulties. Hive, I appreciate you. And again, we're putting our freaking foot on the gas as far down as it will go. We're going to keep the pedal to the metal. We're not letting up. Have a great night. Cheers, everyone.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for